Hello road trippers and welcome back to ROADTRIpVIA, the road trip ready trivia quiz that is made to be played in the car. Today's episode is number 1419. The category is Fairy Tale Trivia. This is a 21 question trivia quiz all about fairy tales and folklore. You remember these stories from the books you read and the movies you watched as a kid? Now let's see how much you remember. Let's get started with question number 1. These two German academics were famous for collecting and publishing fairy tales like Cinderella, Snow White, and Hansel and Gretel. What was the last name of the brothers Jacob and Wilhelm whose work to preserve Germanic culture laid the groundwork for modern fairy tale stories? Jacob and Wilhelm were the brothers Grimm. Grimm is the answer. Question number 2. In the Disney version of Sleeping Beauty, Princess Aurora is sent off to live in a cottage in the forest with 3 good fairies to hide from Maleficent, and they change her name to help protect her identity. What was Aurora's alias in the movie that came from the Grimm fairy tale that inspired the film? The good fairies changed her name to Briar Rose. Question number 3. Hansel and Gretel were abandoned in the woods 2 times by their evil stepmother. The first time, they were able to find their way back home because Hansel left a trail of white pebbles. What did he use to mark the trail the second time that didn't work as well and left them lost in the forest? The second time, he marked the trail with breadcrumbs, and they were eaten by the forest animals. Question number 4. A pregnant woman's intense craving for a certain plant in a witch's garden leads her husband to offer their firstborn child in exchange for the plant. The witch then takes the child and names her after the plant before locking her away in a tower in what famous fairy tale? The answer is Rapunzel, which is an old name for lamb's lettuce. Rapunzel is the answer. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll have his bones to grind my bread. Jack finds himself in a bit of a tricky situation after he was supposed to sell the family cow, but instead traded it for a handful of what? From Jack and the Beanstalk, he traded the cow for a handful of magic beans. Question number 6. In some versions, the first 2 little pigs are eaten after their houses are blown down by the big bad wolf. In the most popular version of the 3 little pigs, the first 2 escape and make it to their brother's well-built house. What 3 different materials did the pigs build their homes with? You need all 3 materials. The first one was straw, then sticks, then bricks. Straw, sticks, bricks. Question number 7. A lot of fairy tales hit their climax with true love's first kiss. In modern versions of The Frog Prince, the frog reverts to his human form after receiving a kiss from the princess, but in the Brothers Grimm version of this story, the princess uses what much more violent method to transform him? In the original version, she throws him against the wall. That turns him into a human. Question number 8. The ruler of Duloc's desire for a perfect kingdom leads him to exile all fairy tale creatures, forcing them to take refuge in Shrek's swamp. What is the name of this diminutive dignitary from the original Shrek film who chooses his bride-to-be with the help of the magic mirror? We just watched Shrek yesterday. The answer is Lord Farquaad. Question number 9. The moral of this fairy tale is to wash your fruits and vegetables before you take a bite. In the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, what fruit was used by the evil witch to poison Snow White and put her in a coma-like deep sleep? The answer is a poisoned apple. Apple is the answer. Question number 10. Before there were the Brothers Grimm, there was this French author who really laid the foundation for the fairy tale literary genre. Who was this member of the French Academy that compiled a 1697 book with the stories about Little Red Riding Hood, Sleeping Beauty, and Puss in Boots? The answer is Charles Perrault. Question number 11. The story begins with a normal bear family just living their life. They've got nice beds, they've got nice chairs, and they each have a nice hot bowl of porridge. They go outside for just a little bit to let the porridge cool, and what young girl comes and makes herself at home in their house? The answer is Goldilocks. Question number 12. The small town of Hamlin had a problem, and they hired a musician to come help them. After he completed the job, the town refused to pay him, and he retaliated by kidnapping the local children away from the town with his music. What job was the Pied Piper originally hired to do? He was a rat catcher. He was hired to get rid of the rats. Question number 13. In the original story, she also sacrifices her chance at an immortal soul. In both the original story and in Disney's version, the Little Mermaid sacrifices what to Ursula the Sea Witch in exchange for a pair of human legs? So in both versions, she gives Ursula what? The answer is her voice. In the original story, she literally took her tongue out. Less graphic in the Disney version. Question number 14. In this fairy tale, a local miller boasts to the king that his daughter can spin this common material into gold. Over 3 nights, with the help of Rumpelstiltskin and the payment of 1 ring, 1 necklace, and 1 promised firstborn, the daughter does manage to spin gold from what material? She spins straw into gold. Question number 15. In the Disney version of Cinderella, her beautiful slippers for the ball are made of glass. But in the Brothers Grimm version of the story, Cinderella receives a pair of slippers that were made from what material? In the original Brothers Grimm version, Cinderella had slippers made of gold. Question number 16. The concept of wishing on a star predates Disney, possibly stemming from ancient superstitions like the Greek astronomer Ptolemy's idea that falling stars were souls that could grant wishes. The song from what film became the theme for the Walt Disney Company, synonymous with dreams and magic? When You Wish Upon a Star from Pinocchio. Question number 17. After a sleepless night, this mysterious woman is revealed to be a true princess and gets the queen's blessing to marry the prince. Even though she was given a bed with 20 mattresses and 20 feather beds, this delicate girl could feel what object that was placed at the bottom of all of them. That is the story of the Princess and the Pea. P is the answer. Question number 18. There are many versions of this fairy tale and not all of them end well. In early versions, this girl and her grandmother are eaten by a big bad wolf. However, in the Grimm version, they are rescued by a hunter, and in most modern versions, what girl is rescued from the wolf by a lumberjack? Whether she was rescued before or after she was eaten by the wolf depends on the story that you're listening to, but the answer is Little Red Riding Hood. Question 19. Some modern critiques of the story say that the main character is suffering from a potential case of Stockholm Syndrome. What is the name of the French fairy tale where the lovely young lady is imprisoned by a monster in a magical castle and ends up falling in love with him? The answer is Beauty and the Beast. And question 20. The Grimm brothers and Charles Perrault were known for compiling historical folk tales and historical legends. But what was the name of the Danish fairy tale author who mostly wrote original stories like The Little Mermaid, The Ugly Duckling, and The Emperor's New Clothes? In the fairy tale world, there are the Grimm brothers, Charles Perrault, and Hans Christian Andersen. That's the answer, Hans Christian Andersen. And that is it for today. Thank you for watching today's episode of Fairy Tale Trivia, and I hope you have a happily ever after. But not until we do question 21. Question 21 is the tiebreaker, which means you don't have to get the number exactly right, but whichever player gets closest to the correct answer is going to win the point. So if after question 20 there is a tie between players, whoever gets closest to this answer is going to win the point. So let's get started. Question 21. In 1697, the original Tales of Mother Goose book was written by Charles Perrault and contained how many different fairy tales? Most of these stories were mentioned in today's quiz, but not all of them. Charles Perrault released the original Tales of Mother Goose in 1697. How many fairy tales were included in that book? Whoever answered closest to 8 fairy tales wins the point. There was The Sleeping Beauty, Little Red Riding Hood, Puss in Boots, Cinderella, Riquet of the Tuft, Bluebeard, the Fairy, and the Little Thumb. That is it for today. Thank you for watching today's episode of Road Trivia. The next quiz will be episode number 1420. It'll be called The Very First Trivia Quiz. And although the title would suggest it's number 1, it's actually a 21 question about famous number 1s throughout history. You know, the first person to walk on the moon, the first winner of American Idol, stuff like that. So famous firsts basically sums it up. That will be episode 1420, and that'll be coming up very soon. In fact, it's already been written. It's ready to be recorded. I'm only waiting for a few more views on the channel. Currently, we are at 4,989,480 views, so about 11,000 views away from 5 million. And we get about 1,000 or 2,000 views a day. So in a couple of days, when it gets real close to 5 million, I'll release that next trivia quiz as a little celebration for 5 million views, which is an astronomical feat for this small channel. I appreciate everybody who watches and everybody who subscribes. I've had a lot of fun doing this over the last 5 years, and I'm looking forward to doing it for another 5 years. Thank you. Have a good day.